The meeting room on the orbital station of Zorith Prime was unlike anything Alex Carter had ever seen. The walls shimmered with a soft, pulsating light that seemed alive, and the air carried a faint hum, as if the entire station were breathing. Representatives from countless alien species filled the circular chamber, their forms ranging from towering insectoids to shimmering, translucent beings that floated above the floor. Alex, a human diplomat with sharp features and an unshakable calm demeanor, stood at the center of it all. His heart beat steadily, but his mind raced. Today, he would speak for Earth. Alex cleared his throat and began. "We come here not as conquerors," he said, his voice steady and clear, "but as a species seeking peace and cooperation. Humanity values diplomacy over conflict." He paused, letting his words sink in. Some of the aliens nodded, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Alex continued, "However, I must make one thing clear. Humanity will not tolerate aggression. If provoked, we will respond with overwhelming force." A ripple of murmurs spread through the chamber. Many of the representatives looked amused, exchanging smirks and quiet laughter. One particularly loud chuckle came from Krelak, a hulking Vraxian with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed faintly red. Krelak leaned forward in his seat, his massive frame casting a shadow over the table. "Overwhelming force," he scoffed, his deep voice echoing through the room. "Your species is young, fragile. You cling to your tiny planet like children afraid of the dark. Do not presume to threaten us." Alex didn't flinch. He locked eyes with Krelak, his expression unwavering. "You misunderstand me," he replied calmly. "This is not a threat. It is a warning. Humanity has faced extinction before, and we have always found a way to survive. We adapt, we innovate, and when necessary, we fight. Do not mistake our desire for peace as weakness." The murmurs grew louder, some sounding curious, others dismissive. A slender, serpentine creature with iridescent scales raised a tendril-like appendage. "Your species is indeed fascinating," it hissed in a melodic tone. "But you are outnumbered and outmatched. What makes you believe you can stand against the might of the galaxy?" Alex took a step forward, his presence commanding despite his smaller stature compared to many of the aliens. "Because survival is in our nature," he said firmly. "Throughout our history, humans have faced challenges far greater than ourselves. We have stared into the abyss and refused to back down. And now, with the tools and technology we have created, we are more capable than ever. Believe me when I say this. Provoking humanity would be a grave mistake." Krelak let out a booming laugh, slapping his hand on the table. "Bold words from such a fragile being," he sneered. "Let us see how bold you are when the time comes." The tension in the room was palpable, but Alex remained composed. He knew his message wouldn't sway everyone, but it wasn't meant to. All he could do was plant the seed of doubt, to make them think twice before underestimating Earth. As the session ended and the representatives filed out of the chamber, Alex allowed himself a small sigh. He hoped they would listen, but deep down, he feared they wouldn't. Nia Bennett sat in the dimly lit control room of NASA's Deep Space Monitoring Station, her eyes glued to the glowing screens in front of her. The hum of computers and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights filled the quiet space. She had been working late, analyzing data from Jupiter's moons, when something unusual caught her attention. A cluster of objects was moving rapidly toward the solar system. At first, she thought it might be a glitch in the system, but as she zoomed in on the readings, her heart began to race. These weren't asteroids or comets. They were ships. Mia quickly alerted her supervisor, Dr. Laura Chen, who arrived within minutes. Together, they studied the data, confirming what Mia had feared. An alien fleet was approaching Earth. The ships were massive, far larger than anything humanity had ever built. Their designs were sleek and angular, with glowing blue markings that pulsed like a heartbeat. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't a friendly visit. The news spread quickly, reaching General Lucas Hayes at the Pentagon. He wasted no time assembling a team to respond. Within hours, Earth's leaders were briefed on the situation. The invading fleet belonged to the Scytherians, a militant species known for their aggressive expansion across the galaxy. They had already conquered several planets, enslaving their populations and stripping them of resources. Now, it seemed, they had set their sights on Earth. Commander Vorthak, the leader of the Scytherian fleet, sent a message to Earth. It was broadcast on every screen and radio frequency, his voice cold and mechanical. "Humans, you are weak and unworthy of your resources. Surrender now, and we may spare your lives." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the world in stunned silence. President Rachel Monroe addressed the United Nations in an emergency session. Her voice was firm but calm as she spoke to the assembly. "We will not bow to tyranny," she declared. "Earth is our home, and we will defend it with everything we have." Cheers erupted from the crowd, but behind closed doors, tensions ran high. Humanity had never faced an enemy like this before. Could they really stand a chance? Samantha Sam Doyle, a fighter pilot stationed aboard the USF Horizon, felt the weight of the moment as she suited up for duty. The Horizon was one of Earth's newest warships, equipped with advanced plasma cannons and AI-assisted targeting systems. Sam had trained for years to fly these cutting-edge fighters, but nothing could have prepared her for this. As she climbed into the cockpit, she took a deep breath, focusing on the mission ahead. The Scytherian fleet entered Earth's orbit, their ships looming large in the sky. Cities around the world watched in awe and fear as the invaders positioned themselves for attack. But humanity wasn't about to roll over. General Hayes gave the order, and Sam's squadron launched into space, leading the charge against the enemy. The battle was intense. The Scytherians fired beams of energy that tore through space, narrowly missing Sam's ship. She banked hard to the left, dodging another blast before returning fire. Her plasma cannons struck true, hitting one of the enemy ships dead on. Explosions lit up the darkness as more of her squadron joined the fight. Earth's technology, though still new, proved to be a match for the Scytherians' superior numbers. Within minutes, the tide began to turn. Sam's team worked together flawlessly, taking out ship after ship. The Scytherians, caught off guard by the ferocity of the human response, started to retreat. Commander Vorthak's voice crackled over the comms, laced with anger and disbelief. "This isn't over," he snarled before ordering his fleet to withdraw. Back on Earth, the victory was met with both relief and celebration. Mia watched the news coverage from her lab, feeling the surge of pride. Humanity had stood its ground and won. But she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Scytherians wouldn't give up so easily, and next time, they might come back stronger. For now, though, Earth had proven it wouldn't go down without a fight. The victory against the Scytherians was a moment of triumph, but it didn't last long. News of Earth's success spread quickly across the galaxy, reaching the ears of species both friendly and hostile. While some admired humanity's courage, others saw the defeat as an insult, one that needed to be answered. Among them were the Vraxians, a proud and militaristic race known for their disdain of weaker civilizations. Krelak, the same Vraxian who had mocked Alex Carter at the Galactic Council, was furious. He viewed the Scytherian loss as a stain on the reputation of all warrior races. Krelak wasted no time seeking out Commander Vorthak of the Scytherians. The two met aboard a neutral space station, their discussions heated but focused. "Your failure is unacceptable," Krelak growled, his glowing red eyes narrowing. "If humans are allowed to grow stronger, they will become a threat to us all." Vorthak, still smarting from his humiliating retreat, agreed. Together, they formed an alliance, the Anti-Human Coalition. Their goal was simple: crush Earth before humanity could pose a real danger. Back on Earth, preparations continued at a feverish pace. General Lucas Hayes knew the Scytherians wouldn't stay away for long, and he suspected other species might join them. He ordered upgrades to Earth's defenses, including new orbital platforms armed with laser turrets, Factories worked around the clock to produce more fighter ships, while scientists like Mia Bennett pushed the boundaries of technology even further. Every day brought new challenges, but also new breakthroughs. President Rachel Monroe addressed the world once again, this time urging unity. "We have shown the galaxy what we are capable of," she said during a televised speech. "But we cannot let our guard down. The fight ahead will test us in ways we cannot yet imagine. Together, we must stand strong." Her words resonated with people around the globe. From busy cities to quiet towns, humanity rallied behind her call for resilience. Meanwhile, Sam Doyle trained tirelessly with her squadron aboard the USS Horizon. She knew the next battle would be harder than the last. The Exetherians had underestimated Earth once, but they wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Sam spent hours in simulators, practicing maneuvers and refining her skills. When she wasn't flying, she studied recordings of the first battle, looking for ways to improve. Her determination inspired her teammates, and together, they became a tightly knit unit. Jake Thompson, a colonist living on Mars, followed the news closely. Though far from Earth, he felt the weight of the looming conflict. Mars was humanity's second home, a place where dreams of exploration had taken root. Jake had always been a mechanic, fixing rovers and maintaining life support systems. But now he found himself wondering if he'd need to do more, much more, to protect what he loved. One evening, as Jake worked on a damaged rover, he heard a distant rumble. At first, he thought it was a sandstorm. But when he looked up, his blood ran cold. Ships, dozens of them, were descending through Mars' thin atmosphere. The coalition had struck. Panic spread through the colony as alarms blared, warning everyone to take cover. Jake grabbed a nearby wrench, gripping it tightly. He wasn't a soldier, but he wasn't about to give up without a fight. Back on Earth, General Hayes received word of the attack. His face hardened as he issued orders. Reinforcements, led by Sam and her squadron, were already en route to Mars. "Hold them off as long as you can," Hayes said over the comms. "Help is coming." As the coalition forces landed, Jake rallied the colonists. Using whatever tools and scrap metal they could find, they set up barricades and makeshift weapons. It wasn't much, but it was enough to slow the invaders down. Jake led a small group to sabotage one of the enemy landing zones, buying precious time for the reinforcements to arrive. Above Mars, Sam's squadron engaged the coalition fleet. Plasma cannons fired, lighting up the dark sky. Despite being outnumbered, Sam's team fought with unmatched skill and precision. They destroyed several enemy ships, creating chaos among the coalition ranks. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. When the USS Horizon finally arrived, its massive guns unleashed devastation upon the coalition forces. The invaders, caught off guard by the ferocity of the human counterattack, began to retreat. Jake watched from the surface as their ships fled into the distance. For now, Mars was safe, but he knew the war was far from over. Humanity had proven its strength once again, but the galaxy was vast, and the coalition wouldn't stop until Earth was theirs. The victory on Mars was a hard-fought one, but it came at a cost. The colony was left scared, its structures damaged and its people shaken. Jake Thompson stood amidst the ruins, his hands covered in dirt and grease as he helped repair a collapsed section of the main habitat. Around him, colonists worked tirelessly to restore what had been lost. Some were injured, others grieving for friends who hadn't made it through the attack. Despite the pain, there was a sense of unity, a shared determination to rebuild and prepare for whatever might come next. Back on Earth, General Lucas Hayes called an emergency meeting with President Rachel Monroe and her advisors. The room was tense, the air heavy with the weight of their situation. "This isn't over," Hayes said bluntly, pointing to a holographic map of the solar system. "The coalition is regrouping. They'll be back, and they'll hit harder next time." His words hung in the silence, each one sinking deeper into the minds of those present. President Monroe nodded grimly. "We need allies," she said finally. If we face this alone, we won't last. Everyone agreed. Earth couldn't fight the entire galaxy by itself, but finding allies wouldn't be easy. Many species still saw humanity as weak or untested, despite recent victories. That's where Alex Carter came in. Alex had spent weeks traveling across the galaxy, meeting with representatives from various alien civilizations. He knew gaining their trust wouldn't be simple, especially after the Coalition's propaganda painted humans as reckless aggressors. Still, Alex pressed on, determined to prove that humanity wasn't just about war. It was about survival, resilience, and hope. One day, Alex found himself aboard a Corin vessel, orbiting a distant star. The Corin were a peaceful species, known for their wisdom and neutrality. Their ambassador, Liranal, greeted him warmly, her shimmering form radiating calm energy. "You have shown great courage," she said, her melodic voice soothing yet firm. "But why should we risk our safety for yours?" Alex took a deep breath. "Because if the Coalition succeeds here, no one will be safe," he replied. "They won't stop with Earth. Once they're done with us, they'll turn on anyone else who stands in their way. Together, we can stop them before it's too late." Liranal considered his words carefully. After a long pause, she nodded. "Very well," she said. "The Corin will aid you, but only if you promise to protect us when this is over." Alex agreed without hesitation, knowing it was a small price to pay. While Alex worked to secure alliances, Mia Bennett remained focused on improving Earth's technology. She collaborated with engineers and scientists worldwide, pushing the limits of human innovation. One breakthrough came in the form of adaptive armor for ships, capable of repairing itself during battle. Another was a new type of shield generator, designed to withstand even the most powerful enemy weapons. Every advancement brought humanity closer to standing toe-to-toe with the Coalition. But not everything went smoothly. During one mission, Alex narrowly escaped an assassination attempt. A group of rogue mercenaries, hired by the Coalition, ambushed him while he traveled between planets. His ship sustained heavy damage, forcing him to make an emergency landing on a remote moon. For hours, he hid in the wreckage, waiting for rescue. When help finally arrived, Alex emerged battered but alive, his resolve stronger than ever. On Mars, Jake continued to organize the colonists, turning them into a makeshift militia. He trained them to use scavenged weapons and taught them basic combat tactics. Though none of them were soldiers, they were determined to defend their home. Jake's leadership inspired confidence, and soon, the colonists began to see themselves not as victims, but as fighters. Meanwhile, Sam Doyle prepared her squadron for the battles ahead. She drilled her team relentlessly, ensuring they were ready for anything. Her pilots respected her not just for her skill, but for her unwavering dedication. "We've proven we can win," she told them one evening. "But winning once isn't enough. We have to keep fighting, no matter what." As days turned into weeks, humanity braced itself for the inevitable. The Coalition was gathering strength, preparing for a final decisive assault. Earth's leaders knew the stakes. Victory would secure humanity's place among the stars, but defeat would mean extinction. Yet, despite the odds, there was a quiet confidence growing. Not arrogance, but a belief that together, they could overcome anything. For now, the galaxy watched and waited, and so did humanity. The Coalition's final assault came without warning. One moment, the skies above Mars were clear and silent. The next, they were filled with the ominous hum of hundreds of ships descending through the thin atmosphere. The invaders had learned from their mistakes. This time, they'd brought more than just soldiers. They brought dreadnoughts, massive warships bristling with weapons powerful enough to level entire cities in seconds. Jake Thompson stood on the edge of the colony, his hands gripping a makeshift rifle cobbled together from spare parts. Around him, colonists scrambled into position behind barricades made of scrap metal and concrete. Some were nervous, others terrified, but all of them shared one thing: determination. They weren't trained fighters, but they were prepared to do whatever it took to protect their home. As the coalition forces landed, chaos erupted. Energy blasts tore through the air, striking buildings and sending debris flying. Jake shouted orders, directing groups of colonists to hold key positions. He led by example, firing at enemy troops advancing across the barren Martian landscape. His shots weren't always accurate, but they bought precious time for others to regroup. Above the surface, Sam Doyle's squadron engaged the coalition fleet. The USF Horizon orbited Mars, its massive guns unleashing torrents of plasma fire. Sam's fighter darted between enemy ships, dodging laser beams while returning fire. Her teammates followed her lead, working together seamlessly. Despite being outnumbered, their training and technology gave them an edge. Ship after ship exploded in bursts of light, littering space with wreckage. But the dreadnoughts loomed large, their firepower unmatched. One of them locked onto the horizon, charging its main weapon. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to evade, but there was no way to outrun such a devastating attack. On board the horizon, tension gripped everyone. Then Sam spotted something, a weak point on the dreadnought's underside, near its engine core. It was a long shot, but it was their only chance. "Cover me," she called over the comms, banking her ship toward the dreadnought. Enemy fighters swarmed around her, trying to intercept, but her squadron held them off. With every ounce of skill she possessed, Sam navigated through a storm of explosions and gunfire. Finally, she lined up her shot and fired. A direct hit. The dreadnought shuddered violently before erupting in a fiery explosion that lit up the Martian sky. On the ground, Jake saw his opportunity. While the coalition forces were distracted by the destruction of their flagship, he led a daring raid on one of their landing zones. Armed with crude explosives, he and a small team infiltrated the area, planting charges on supply depots and vehicles. When the explosives detonated, panic spread among the invaders. Supplies burned, equipment was destroyed, and morale plummeted. Despite these victories, the battle raged on. The coalition still had overwhelming numbers, and reinforcements were pouring in. Jake knew they couldn't hold out forever. Over the comms, General Lucas Hayes' voice crackled urgently. "Reinforcements are en route. Hold your ground." Jake relayed the message to the colonists, who fought even harder knowing help was coming. Hours felt like days as they endured wave after wave of attacks. Finally, salvation arrived. Reinforcements from Earth entered Mars' orbit, led by another fleet of advanced warships. Their arrival turned the tide. Coalition forces, now caught between two fronts, began to falter. One by one, their ships retreated, fleeing back into the void of space. As the last enemy vessel disappeared, cheers erupted among the survivors. Jake sank to his knees, exhausted but relieved. Above, Sam watched the retreating fleet, her heart pounding. They had done it. They had pushed back the coalition once again. Back on Earth, news of the victory spread quickly. President Rachel Monroe addressed the world, praising the bravery of those who had fought. "Today, we prove that humanity cannot be broken," she declared. "No matter how great the challenge, we will stand together." For now, Mars was safe, but everyone knew this wasn't the end. The coalition would return, stronger and angrier. Yet, humanity had shown something remarkable, not just strength, but resilience. Together, they had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. And if they could do it once, they could do it again. The victory on Mars was a turning point, but it didn't bring peace. The coalition's retreat was temporary, and everyone knew they were regrouping for an even larger assault. Back on Earth, leaders and scientists worked tirelessly to prepare for what was coming. General Lucas Hayes pushed his teams to fortify defenses, while Mia Bennett continued to innovate, developing new weapons and technologies that could give humanity an edge. Meanwhile, Alex Carter's diplomatic efforts reached a critical stage. He traveled across the galaxy, meeting with species who might be willing to ally with Earth. Some were hesitant, fearing retaliation from the coalition if they sided with humans. Others simply didn't trust humanity enough to join their cause. But Alex refused to give up. He spoke passionately about Earth's determination, showing holographic recordings of the battles on Mars and the courage of its people. Slowly, he began to win them over. One of his greatest successes came when he met the Corin again. Ambassador Lirinal had kept her promise, sending ships and resources to aid Earth. More importantly, she convinced other neutral species to do the same. "Your fight is our fight now," she told Alex during one meeting. "If the coalition wins, none of us will be safe." Her words carried weight, and soon, a small but growing coalition of allies began to form around humanity. However, not all negotiations went smoothly. On one occasion, Alex found himself in grave danger. A group of mercenaries hired by the coalition ambushed him while he traveled between planets. His ship took heavy damage, forcing him to crash land on a desolate moon. For hours, Alex hid among the wreckage, using his quick thinking to disable tracking devices and mask his location. When rescue teams finally arrived, he emerged battered but alive, his resolve stronger than ever. Back on Earth, President Rachel Monroe addressed the United Nations once more. "We have friends now," she said, pointing to representatives from several alien species gathered in the room. "But we must remain vigilant. The coalition will not stop until we are destroyed, or until they are." Her speech inspired hope, but also reinforced the urgency of their situation. Mia Bennett spent long nights in her lab, working on upgrades for Earth's fleet. One breakthrough came in the form of energy shields capable of withstanding multiple hits from enemy weapons. Another was a new type of missile designed to target dreadnoughts specifically. Each advancement brought humanity closer to standing toe-to-toe with the coalition. On Mars, Jake Thompson helped rebuild the colony while training colonists to defend themselves. He turned them into a well-organized militia, teaching them how to use scavenged weapons and tactics learned during the siege. Though they weren't soldiers, they were determined to protect their home at any cost. Jake became a symbol of resilience, earning respect from everyone around him. Sam Doyle prepared her squadron for the next battle, knowing it would be bigger and deadlier than anything they faced before. She drilled her team relentlessly, simulating scenarios where they were outnumbered and outgunned. Her leadership earned her loyalty from her pilots, who trusted her completely. "We've proven we can win," she told them during one briefing. "But winning isn't enough. We have to keep fighting, no matter what." As days turned into weeks, humanity braced itself for the inevitable. The coalition was gathering strength, calling in reinforcements from across the galaxy. Earth's leaders knew the stakes. This wasn't just about survival. It was about proving humanity deserved a place among the stars. Despite the odds, there was a quiet confidence growing. Not arrogance, but a belief that together, they could overcome anything. For now, the galaxy watched and waited. And so did humanity. The coalition's forces were massing at the edge of Earth's solar system, their ships forming a vast armada that stretched across the void. Intelligence reports confirmed what everyone feared. This was it, the final invasion. The enemy had brought everything they had, from swarms of fighters to colossal dreadnoughts bristling with planet-destroying weapons. Humanity's leaders knew there would be no retreat, no second chances. If Earth fell, so did Mars, and every hope for humanity's survival in the galaxy. Mia Bennett stood in her lab, staring at the sleek, towering machines before her. They were called Titans, massive autonomous warships designed as Earth's last line of defense. Each Titan was larger than any ship humanity had ever built, powered by experimental fusion reactors that made them nearly unstoppable. Their hulls shimmered with energy shields capable of deflecting even the most powerful attacks, while their weapon systems included EMP bursts strong enough to disable entire fleets. Mia had poured her heart and soul into Project Titan, working day and night alongside her team to bring the project to life. Now, as she watched technicians run final tests, she felt both pride and fear. These machines were humanity's ace in the hole, but once unleashed, there would be no turning back. General Lucas Hayes gathered his top commanders in a secure briefing room deep beneath the Pentagon. The air was tense as holographic displays showed the coalition's movements. "This is it," Hayes said, his voice steady but grim. "When we deploy the Titans, it will send a message. Humanity doesn't back down." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But remember, these are not just tools of war. They're symbols. Symbols of our strength, our ingenuity, and our refusal to give up." Sam Doyle sat quietly during the briefing, her mind racing. She had heard whispers about Project Titan, but never imagined she'd see it in action so soon. As a pilot, she had always relied on skill and teamwork to win battles. Now she wondered how much of the fight would depend on machines instead of people. When the meeting ended, she returned to her squadron, sharing what little she knew. Her pilots listened intently, their expressions a mix of awe and unease. "Whatever happens," Sam told them, "we still have a job to do. Don't forget that." On Mars, Jake Thompson worked tirelessly to prepare the colony for another attack. He knew the Titans wouldn't protect them directly. If the coalition struck Mars again, it would be up to the colonists to hold their ground until reinforcements arrived. Jake trained the militia relentlessly, drilling them on tactics and teaching them how to use every available resource. Though he tried to stay optimistic, doubt lingered in his mind. Could Earth really stand against such overwhelming odds? President Rachel Monroe addressed the world one final time before the battle began. Standing before a podium flanked by flags, she spoke with calm determination. "Today, we face the greatest challenge in our history," she said. "But I have faith in us, in our courage, our unity, and our ability to overcome anything. We may be small compared to the galaxy, but we are strong, and we will not fall." As the hours ticked away, the tension grew unbearable. On Earth, families huddled together, watching the skies and praying for victory. In orbit, Sam's squadron took positions around the Titans, ready to escort them into battle. Deep underground, Mia monitored the systems of each Titan, ensuring they were fully operational. Everyone waited, knowing the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Finally, the order came. General Hayes gave the command, and the Titans roared to life. Slowly, majestically, they moved toward the coalition fleet, their massive forms glowing with power. For a moment, there was silence, a collective breath held by billions of humans and countless alien observers. Then, the Titans unleashed their fury. EMP bursts surged outward, disabling dozens of enemy ships instantly. Plasma cannons fired, tearing through the coalition's ranks. Panic spread among the invaders as their carefully planned assault crumbled under the sheer force of humanity's response. It was a sight no one would ever forget, a testament to human ingenuity and resolve. But even as the tide turned, no one celebrated yet. The battle wasn't over, and the cost of using the Titans was clear. Humanity had crossed a threshold. From this point forward, there would be no going back. The battle raged across the solar system, a chaotic storm of light and destruction. The Titans cut through the coalition's fleet like blades, their EMP bursts disabling ship after ship. Plasma cannons fired relentlessly, turning enemy vessels into fiery clouds of debris. For the first time, the coalition forces wavered. Their commanders shouted orders over open channels, trying to regroup, but chaos reigned as their carefully planned assault unraveled. Sam Doyle led her squadron with precision, weaving between the Titans and picking off stragglers that tried to escape. Her fighter darted through the wreckage of destroyed ships, narrowly avoiding explosions and stray laser fire. "Stay close," she called over the comms, guiding her team through the chaos. Behind her, the pilots followed without hesitation, trusting her instincts completely. Together, they created opportunities for the Titans to strike harder, targeting dreadnoughts and supply carriers that were critical to the coalition's efforts. On Earth, Mia Bennett watched the battle unfold from a secure command center. Screens displayed real-time data from the Titans, showing their progress and damage levels. So far, The machines were holding up perfectly, their shields deflecting even the most powerful attacks. But Mia couldn't relax. Every second felt like an eternity as she monitored systems, ensuring nothing went wrong. She knew how much depended on these machines, and on her work. If even one Titan failed, it could tip the scales back in the Coalition's favor. The Coalition wasn't giving up easily. Commander Vorthak of the Exetherians rallied his remaining forces, ordering them to focus all firepower on a single Titan. "Take it down," he roared, his voice crackling with desperation. Dozens of ships converged on the target, unleashing torrents of energy beams and missiles. The Titan's shields flickered under the barrage, but held firm. Then, with a surge of power, its plasma cannons fired, obliterating nearly half the attacking ships in one devastating blast. Vorthak cursed loudly, realizing too late that his strategy had backfired. Meanwhile, Jake Thompson fought alongside the colonists on Mars, bracing for another attack. Though the main battle was happening near Earth, smaller groups of Coalition ships broke off to harass Mars once again. Jake led a group of militia members to defend a critical landing zone, using makeshift explosives to disable enemy vehicles. "Keep moving," he shouted, directing his team to stay ahead of the invaders. They worked together seamlessly, using the terrain to their advantage. When reinforcements arrived from Earth, the Coalition forces retreated, leaving behind scorched ground and shattered equipment. Back in orbit, General Lucas Hayes watched the battle unfold with a mixture of pride and anxiety. The Titans were performing better than anyone had hoped, but he knew this wasn't just about winning. It was about sending a message. Humanity wasn't afraid to fight, and it wouldn't back down no matter the odds. As the Coalition fleet began to falter, Hayes gave the order: "Push them back. Don't let them regroup." The final phase of the battle was brutal. Sam's squadron pursued the retreating Coalition forces, destroying any ships that tried to flee. One by one, the dreadnoughts fell, their massive forms breaking apart in spectacular explosions. Finally, Commander Vorthak's flagship came into view. It was heavily damaged but still operational, limping toward the edge of the solar system. Sam locked onto it, her fighter racing ahead of the others. With a final burst of speed, she lined up her shot and fired. The flagship erupted in flames, signaling the end of the Coalition's invasion. As the last enemy ships disappeared into the void, silence fell over the battlefield. On Earth, cheers erupted in cities around the globe. President Rachel Monroe addressed the world, her voice filled with emotion. "Today, we have proven that humanity cannot be defeated," she said. "We stand united, stronger than ever." But amidst the celebration, Alex Carter stood quietly, reflecting on what had been won and lost. The galaxy now knew humanity's strength, but they also knew its willingness to use overwhelming force. For better or worse, the days of being underestimated were over. The aftermath of the battle left Earth and its colonies forever changed. Cities lay in ruins, their skylines marred by craters and collapsed buildings. On Mars, the colony was battered but still standing, thanks to the bravery of Jake Thompson and the colonists who had fought alongside him. The scars of war were everywhere: burnt-out vehicles, shattered habitats, and memorials for those who hadn't made it. Yet, amidst the destruction, there was also a sense of resilience. People worked tirelessly to rebuild, their spirits unbroken despite the losses. Sam Doyle returned to Earth after weeks of relentless combat, her body weary, but her mind sharp. She stepped off her fighter ship to a hero's welcome, though she didn't feel like one. The faces of her fallen comrades lingered in her thoughts, their voices echoing in her memory. When reporters asked her how it felt to have saved humanity, she simply said, "We did what we had to do. None of us are heroes. We're survivors." Her words resonated deeply with those who heard them, capturing the bittersweet reality of their victory. Mia Bennett walked through the command center where she had spent countless sleepless nights monitoring the Titans. The machines that had saved humanity now sat silent, their power cores cooling down after the battle. Maya felt a strange mix of pride and sorrow. She had created something extraordinary, something that had turned the tide of the war. But she couldn't forget the cost, the lives lost, the sacrifices made. As she looked at the data screens showing the extent of the damage across the solar system, she whispered to herself, was it worth it? President Rachel Monroe addressed the United Nations once more, this time with a tone of cautious optimism. We have won a great victory, she began, her voice steady but tinged with sadness. But let us not forget the price we paid. Millions of lives were lost, homes destroyed, dreams shattered. Today, we honor their memory by vowing to build a better future, a future where humanity stands as a beacon of hope, not just strength. The Galactic Council convened shortly after, with Alex Carter representing Earth. This time, the atmosphere was different. Gone were the smirks and dismissive glances from alien representatives. Instead, they watched Alex with a mixture of respect and unease. Krelak, the Vraxian who had mocked humanity before, avoided eye contact entirely. When Alex spoke, his words carried weight. Humanity does not seek conflict, he said firmly. But we will defend ourselves, and our allies, with everything we have. Do not mistake our desire for peace as weakness. News of Earth's triumph spread across the galaxy, reaching species both near and far. Some admire humanity's courage and ingenuity, while others feared its newfound reputation. Allies like the Corins celebrated the victory, knowing it secured their safety for now. Ambassador Liranel approached Alex privately after the council meeting. You have earned your place among the stars, she said softly. But remember, power comes with responsibility. Years passed, and humanity thrived in ways no one could have imagined. Earth became a hub of innovation and diplomacy, respected, and sometimes feared, by all. The Titans remained as symbols of human strength, though they were rarely used again. Instead, humanity focused on rebuilding and forging stronger bonds with its allies. Jake eventually returned to Mars, helping transform the colony into a thriving community. He often stood outside at night, gazing up at Earth glowing faintly in the sky. We made it, he would say to himself, smiling despite everything. Sam continued serving as a pilot, mentoring new recruits and sharing stories of the battles that had shaped their world. And Mia, she went back to her lab, dreaming up ways to ensure humanity would never face such odds again. Though the wounds of war healed slowly, humanity emerged stronger than ever. It had proven itself capable of greatness, but also aware of the burdens that came with it. For now, peace reigned, but everyone knew the galaxy was vast, and challenges would always arise. And when they did, humanity would be ready. Years had passed since the final battle against the Coalition, and humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer questioned. Earth stood as a beacon of innovation, resilience, and strength, a planet that had faced extinction and emerged victorious. The scars of war still lingered, but they served as reminders of what humanity was capable of achieving when united. Cities were rebuilt, colonies expanded, and new technologies flourished, bringing prosperity to both Earth and its outposts among the stars. Alex Carter often found himself reflecting on how much had changed. Once dismissed as insignificant, humanity now commanded respect, or at least caution, from even the most powerful species in the galaxy. At Galactic Council meetings, representatives who once laughed at Alex's warnings now nodded thoughtfully when he spoke. He remembered Krelak, the Vraxian who had mocked humanity's potential. Now, whenever their paths crossed, Krelak avoided meeting Alex's gaze altogether. It wasn't fear, it was acknowledgement. Humanity had proven it deserved a seat at the table. Sam Doyle spent her days training the next generation of pilots. Her squadron had become legendary, their names etched into history books across multiple worlds. But Sam didn't dwell on fame. Instead, she focused on teaching young recruits the lessons she'd learned: teamwork, adaptability, and the importance of protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. You're not just flying for yourself, she told them during one session. You're flying for everyone back home. On Mars, Jake Thompson became a symbol of perseverance. The colony he helped defend during the war had grown into a thriving hub of science and culture. Jake continued working with his hands, fixing machinery and mentoring younger colonists. Though some called him a hero, he shrugged off the title. "We all did our part," he'd say humbly. Still, there were moments when he looked around at the bustling community and felt a quiet pride. They had survived together and thrived. Mia Bennett returned to her lab, driven by a new purpose. With the Titans decommissioned, she turned her attention to projects aimed at preventing future conflicts. She developed advanced communication systems to foster better understanding between species, as well as early warning networks to detect potential threats before they escalated. Mia knew humanity couldn't rely solely on weapons forever. Peace, she believed, required effort too. The Corin remained steadfast allies, their ambassador Lirinal often visiting Earth to discuss shared goals. Together, humans and Corin worked on initiatives to restore planets ravaged by war, planting seeds, both literal and metaphorical, for a brighter future. Other species began reaching out as well, seeking partnerships or simply knowledge. Humanity, once seen as fragile and untested, was now regarded as a force to be reckoned with, but also as a source of hope. President Rachel Monroe retired after serving 2 terms, leaving behind a legacy of unity and determination. Her successor carried forward her vision, emphasizing diplomacy alongside defense. Humanity's leaders understood that power without wisdom could lead to arrogance, and they vowed never to let that happen. Decades later, Alex attended another council meeting. This time, tensions arose over territorial disputes involving smaller species. As arguments grew heated, an alien representative leaned forward, glaring at Alex. "And what gives you the right to interfere?" he demanded. Alex smiled faintly, his expression calm but firm. "Because we've been where you are," he replied. "We know what happens when fear overrides reason. Don't make the same mistakes." His words silenced the room. For a moment, Alex thought about the journey humanity had taken, from being underestimated to becoming a galactic power. It hadn't been easy, and it certainly hadn't been without cost. But through every challenge, humanity had adapted, fought, and endured. As Alex left the chamber that day, he glanced up at the stars visible through the station's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, life continued to evolve. Civilizations rose and fell, and the galaxy spun ever onward. Humanity's story was far from over, but for now, it was a good one. A story of survival, courage, and the unyielding belief that even in the face of overwhelming odds, hope could prevail.